So when you think of Animal Crossing, the first thing that probably pops into your head is cute, wholesome, or that one song every streamer plays. While you might not expect it from a game as innocent as Animal Crossing, the franchise actually has a long history of bizarre controversies, hidden racism, questionable content for children, and black markets. How did we go from cute animals to hackers are going to destroy your game and consoles? The AC fandom itself is filled with drama, resulting in witch hunts, doxing, death threats, and people losing it over not having their comfort characters on their islands. And it just got worse with every game. So today we're going to look at the bizarre history of Animal Crossing controversies. But wait, if you're asking yourself, what is Animal Crossing? What are the animals crossing? Why are they crossing? And is that cat dancing? Then here's the TLDR. It's a cozy social simulation game where you, the human, move into a village, city, island, or hopefully a space station in a future release, that is occupied by cute animals. From here, you build your utopia and communicate with random furry villagers and NPCs. Also, you are enslaved to a greedy trash panda. The game runs in real time, so the time of day and seasons change as they do in real life. Time still passes even when you're not playing, so when you're gone, your villagers are sad and your town turns into a dumpster fire, just like the AC fandom. Dōbutsu no Mori, or Animal Forest, was the first of many successful Animal Crossing titles. Little did Nintendo know that the odd game they released in April 2001 for the slowly dying N64 would become a cult classic, let alone frighten children for years to come. The original Animal Crossing introduced many of the NPCs beloved by the fandom today, including the mole Sony Rossetti. He would appear whenever a player quit the game without saving and lectured him brutally. He insulted players in all caps, had scary music, and threatened to completely delete your game data if you resetted more than 7 times. Because of that, he scared children in Japan to tears, and concerned parents actually convinced Nintendo to make him optional in later games. So he literally got cancelled but still remained in the games. Players also had it out for Tom Nook, because right from the start, the player base firmly believed that he was evil and just extorting the player. Evil Nookler resonated with the fandom so much that he was nominated as the top Nintendo villain in the 2003 annual Nintendo Power Awards. Despite not being a villain, Nintendo has tried to convince players that he's actually a good guy and even gave Tom Nook multiple redemption arcs in later games. Still, Tom Nook is evil to most players, and creepy fanfiction just proves that. Maybe because of the scary NPCs or the N64 stuff, Animal Forest would never leave Japan. To the dismay of many AC fans, it became an elusive collectible full of forgotten exclusive content. Thus, there aren't a lot of controversies surrounding it. The few I mentioned are extremely tame and nothing in comparison to the stuff that happened in later games, especially New Horizon. Animal Forest's success paved the way for a GameCube re-release with added content called Dōbutsu no Mori Plus in December 2001. Its US port followed in 2002 and became widely known as Animal Crossing. However, localization for the game was no easy undertaking because numerous dialogues had to be rewritten, replacing Japanese items that could confuse a US audience, changing some questionable things, and introducing other questionable things. Dōbutsu no Mori Plus introduced the male fashion giraffe Gracie, who gives the player exclusive items. The Japanese and Korean games present Gracie as an offensive LGBTQ+ stereotype. They gave him a deep voice, made him act and present very feminine, and his last name was Nabenosuke, which translates to saucy woman and is an anagram for slur. The international ports got rid of anti-LGBTQ+ undertones and just turned Gracie into a mean girl fashion critic. Similarly, the carpet and wallpaper selling camel Sahara was male but represented themselves as very feminine in the Japanese and Korean entries of Animal Crossing. While Roland or Laurent is now a female character in international localizations, they still retain an exotic accent that makes some people a bit uncomfortable due to stereotypical representations of Middle Eastern folks. But don't worry, Animal Crossing improved its representation over the years, and in New Horizons they even added characters like Sasha, who's male but has typically female hobbies and looks, and NPCs that imply dating the same gender. Following the pattern of controversial animals, the eagles Lei and Quetzal were introduced in Dōbutsu no Mori, returned in Plus, but got removed from Animal Crossing because of their offensive representation of Native Americans. Who greenlit this? Interestingly, they weren't removed in all Animal Crossing parts because some European ones still featured them. Presumably because of backlash, Japanese games stopped featuring them too after Dōbutsu no Mori E+. The story of controversial villages doesn't end here though. The gorilla villager Jane got a makeover in Animal Crossing because her design was, well, this. That's about as bad as Jinx's original design, which also got banned in the US. However, the less offensive inspiration of those designs was the popular Japanese gyaro street fashion. Looking at the core elements of a specific gyaro style like bleached hair, colorful makeup and spray tans, there is a resemblance to Jane. Still, Jane's color scheme and face were changed to not be offensive, and then Jane just vanished after E+. When fans bring up the original Animal Crossing, they often claim that villagers were meaner, calling the player a freak mental case, a filthy ogre, or some variations of fat and unlovable was normal for villagers with snooty and cranky personalities. Fans laughed at, and many still beg Nintendo to bring back those mean villagers because the new ones are quote-unquote boring, dry, and void of any character. But Nintendo didn't really remove mean villagers. Japanese Animal Crossing games always featured polite and friendly villagers. The localization just added edgy phrases to Animal Crossing. So if anything, the new villagers just stick to the original script. The infamous love mechanic wasn't removed during localization, even though it's inappropriate for kids. In Animal Crossing, villagers could develop a crush on players based on luck. Players didn't receive benefits from that aside from awkward flirting and weird letters, which is probably why it was removed from the games. But the fandom still wants Animal Crossing to reintroduce romantic features, like weddings, even though the alpaca wedding was a touchy subject for some. But the game had even worse mechanics that would get scrapped due to player hatred. Villagers could simply steal items from your inventory, repaint your house, and whenever you visited someone's town, one of your villagers had to move. If this was still in the game today, heads would just roll. Dōbutsu no Mori Plus and Animal Crossing both granted players access to a new tropical island, provided they had a Game Boy Advance and link cable to connect it to their GameCube. Hiding an in-game feature behind a real-world paywall was a no-no for a lot of players, and still causes backlash to this day. But players enjoyed Animal Crossing nonetheless, so Nintendo didn't care, and they also knew we'd just come back for new games anyways. With the localization being a success, Nintendo ported English-exclusive items along with new ones into a novel Animal Crossing game called Dōbutsu no Mori E+ in 2003. E+ had its fair share of exclusive and exciting content, but was again only available in Japan. Since most E+ exclusives wouldn't return in successive games, fans were angry. Especially E+ exclusive villagers that could only be obtained via Nintendo's e-reader and special cards were highly sought after in the West. While half of the E+ villagers got their international debut with New Leaf and Amiibo cards, the promotional ones never returned. Meow and Bao usually come up in online Animal Crossing discussions because players never lost hope that they could get them one day without hacking. Both villagers were inspired by the Meowlingual and Baolingual, which were devices that translated what your cats and dogs said. The gimmicks were only popular in Japan around the time of E+'s release, so Nintendo just scrapped their reference. Other lesser-known promotional characters like Nindori, with interesting backstories, are also lost to time. Nintendo also doubled down on their Scam Island in E+. Instead of requiring a Game Boy Advance to access it, players could purchase it from Tom Nook. But in order to populate it with villagers, they had to scan in special Islander cards, which required an e-reader, and an e-reader required a Game Boy Advance anyways. Prior to E+, quite a few NES and Famicom games could be legally emulated within Animal Forest. But Mario Bros, Ice Climbers, Super Mario Bros, and The Legend of Zelda disappeared in Animal Crossing and E+. Fans called them the Forbidden Floor and resorted to hacking them back into the game. After some backlash, Nintendo re-released Mario Bros and Ice Climbers cards, while the other two remained in limbo. A few content dry years passed, but then Animal Crossing Wild World was released right at the end of 2005 for the Nintendo DS. And boys, it was wild. Nintendo added an online multiplayer to Wild World so players could visit each other's towns via the Wi-Fi connection service. This was extremely cool until towns got hacked and consoles got destroyed. Wild World used seeds to place map items like buildings and rocks whenever a new town was generated or during the development of the game. Normally, seeds aren't accessible in the game, but players found a way to hack them in. Malicious players would visit other towns and place seeds. Spawning small items like trees caused minor inconveniences because players player could get locked out of buildings and features. This could trigger some weird glitches where players got stuck in endless loops of trying to enter and exit a house, or they just couldn't let people into their towns anymore. But for some, ruining the experience of others wasn't enough. Brick seeds are seeds placed with the intention of corrupting the game's memory beyond repair, or crashing the DS hardware, which could damage the console. Hackers would either stack large seeds like buildings on top of each other in the same location, or add more than 8 villager homes to the map. Wildworld's memory couldn't handle either case, so whenever the game would try to load a brick-seeded area, it would just crash. Brick seeds usually don't appear immediately after being placed, so malicious players could leave the victim's town and force Animal Crossing to save, which would render the damage permanent. Apart from spawning seeds, hackers also managed to trigger events that are usually blocked during online multiplayer, like players feigning from getting stung by a tarantula. In single player, your game would just fade to black. In multiplayer, it would crash. Some malicious players even organized into groups online to find and brick-seed towns together. The online posts are kind of edgy, so it's safe to assume that most of them were teens in their edgelord phase. Once you got brick-seeded, there wasn't really anything you could do except for hope that your DS wasn't toast and just completely restart your game. Of course, the fandom was in complete panic. Because Nintendo didn't offer a fix, benevolent players shared guides on how to hack brick seeds out of your game, and Animal Crossing communities advised their members to not let strangers into their towns. Some forums even made whitelists to secure a safe trading network for their members. Besides seeds, players were also haunted by the Red Tulip Plague. In January 2006, in-game letters from Nintendo that had a red tulip attached circulated via Wi-Fi connection. The item seemed innocent enough, but players who placed it indoors couldn't get rid of it. The tulip could neither be moved, covered, or picked up. It was just an invisible block that made one tile in the player's home unusable. Quickly, rumors spread that the tulip wasn't sent from Nintendo, but that the Wi-Fi connection network had been hacked and the tulip was actually a virus. Within a week of player mass reporting the alleged hack, Nintendo issued an official statement and apologized for the tulip incident. They assured players that the tulip wasn't a virus, but rather a bug of their item uploader. Since the tulip was corrupting Wildworld's memory, Nintendo removed the letter from circulation and advised players to delete the tulip on site. We all know that KK Slider is a free spirit, but according to the New York Times, he's also a pirate. In 2005, one of their journalists investigated Animal Crossing and specifically Slider for promoting piracy. After his performance at the brew, the nude dog hands out his music to the player for free. Sometimes he even goes as far as telling the player that those industry fat cats try to put a price on my music, but it wants to be free. This prompted the New York Times reporter to ask Nintendo if KK offered some meta commentary on the music industry. Nintendo's vice president for marketing replied that no real social commentary was intended, but that KK Slider is a free spirit who cannot be bought for money, and as a dog, he doesn't want to deal with any fat cats. Pretty based, Nintendo. So at the end of Wildworld's era in 2008, right when Nintendo announced that Animal Crossing would come to the Wii with City Folk, they also introduced a feature that allowed players to move Animal Crossing save data from the DS to the new Wii game. This should have been our first warning that City Folk was just a Wii port of Wildworld. Anyway, to promote the new data transfer feature, Nintendo sent pristine copies of City Folk along with Wildworld copies that had existing save files to game journalists, without checking them for bad content. On the Wildworld press copies, the fluffy shade Barbara had her custom catchphrase set to a slur instead of her default darling. Also, her greeting was modified to a controversial innuendo from Full Metal Jacket. Normally, Animal Crossing filters offensive words, but the catchphrase contained accents which made it slip through. This made the situation worse because it showed that Animal Crossing's profanity detection system doesn't work that well and that Animal Crossing is in fact not for every sheep. Nintendo had to issue an apology and give an explanation. In their official statement, Nintendo claimed that the phrase was included without their knowledge via a wireless feature of Wildworld that allowed user-generated catchphrases to spread from copy to copy. Still, we don't know how it got into the game in the first place. Nintendo probably wouldn't just use some random save file, but use a new copy of Wildworld and unlock stuff and then multiply that one. But in that case, someone must have tampered the Wildworld copies on purpose. Fans were still stoked for a new Animal Crossing game coming to the Wii ever since Nintendo teased it back in 2005 at E3. This excitement only grew when Edge magazine reported that the new Animal Crossing title would be an MMO. But to the disappointment of the fandom, City Folk was more like a report of Wild World than an actual game on its own, and you couldn't even fight with other players or gang up on villagers online. When asked about the development process in 2006, a producer of Wild World and City Folk stated that not a lot of work had been completed on City Folk, and confirmed that it still was an unplayable concept. City Folk's concept predates Wild World, so it's possible that all the ideas and resources went into Wild World instead of City Folk, and when they missed their initial release deadline set in 2007, the development team just wrapped everything up and just put the additions they couldn't put into Wild World into City Folk and shipped it. Still, City Folk had one striking difference from Wild World: deteriorating grass. Animal Tracks was a game mechanic that recorded a player's movements and wore grass down accordingly. The grass would regrow, but the deterioration was faster, resulting in towns with no grass left in some areas. The fandom was furious because a part of Animal Crossing is to keep your town aesthetically pleasing. Due to the grass disaster and lack of new features, Animal Crossing City Folk is widely known as the most hated and worst game in the series, but not as hated as Tordima was by parents. Concerned parents saw Tordima as kids for their birthday in the game and thought it was an adult trying to get information from kids online. Nintendo had to publicly explain the mechanics of NPCs versus online players and why Tordima asked for the player's birthday. It's to throw them a birthday surprise party. Since Nintendo got rid of brick seeds in City Folk, everyone thought that Wi-Fi connection hacking was a thing of the past, until the HDLC virus made its rounds. An HDLC is hacked downloadable content, so like a DLC but not official. If a player visited someone who had HDLC items, or they visited an infected town, they would receive the HDLC too. HDLC items showed up randomly in the Able Sisters shop, so it was hard to tell if someone was infected and who gave it to them. Most common HDLC items included Pokemon balls, Ash's hat, lightsabers, and the Dementio mask. Rumors that these and City Folk copies could get corrupted, but only in very rare cases, quickly made rounds in the fandom. Players panicked even more after multiple posts claimed that HDLCs spread via friend lists. If one of your friends had it, you would get it too. A few days passed and fans found out that HDLCs are pretty harmless. Nintendo equipped City Folk with 256 placeholders for DLCs. HDLCs just take up some of that space. If a player received official DLCs, they were either added to their game or replaced some HDLC slots. City Folk was a bust, so Nintendo tried to turn over a new leaf in 2013 with its 3DS release of Animal Crossing New Leaf. New Leaf was well received by fans, but again, the online multiplayer led to some controversies. Although brick seeds were patched, New Leaf's online mode still allowed players to spawn little objects like rocks and trees. Hackers would visit towns and block access to buildings or important areas with non-removable items to keep people from playing the game. The text-to-item hack allowed players to spawn items just by entering their IDs in chat. However, if they overdid the hack and spawned thousands of tomato juice shirts, the game would usually just freeze without any permanent damage. Hacking your own town got increasingly popular with New Leaf, but even visiting extremely modified towns wasn't dangerous. At worst, your multiplayer connection would end prematurely. Still, some hacked items could damage your game. New Leaf allowed users to receive 4 mannequins from side quests. This limit couldn't be exceeded, so players who wanted more had to resort to hacking. Copying the mannequins once worked perfectly fine, but every copy mimicked the original exactly, so you couldn't dress them separately. This was probably because New Leaf didn't recognize them as unique items. However, placing a second copy could crash your game and corrupt your memory. Before warnings of the mannequin problem spread through the fandom, a lot of players would visit hacked islands and receive additional mannequins, which would ultimately ruin the game. Wrapped items were another source of potential permanent damage to your game. Players would sometimes wrap hacked items as presents and give them to unsuspecting players. After unwrapping the gift, players would find a nasty surprise. They couldn't get rid of the hacked item. Depending on the item, it would either take up inventory space irreversibly, or they could place and use the item but not sell or trash it. What a shitty gift. Hacked rental wetsuits were a popular choice for the latter, while hacked scavenger hunt lists often caused unusable inventory space. All of this was annoying, but nothing compared to the Dreamtown stealing incident. New Leaf added the Dream Suit, which allowed players to share their town online without having to invite people or even be online. After uploading your town, you'd receive a dream address that could be easily used by other players to find and explore your town. A major part of the fandom put an exuberant amount of time into their towns to theme them according to an aesthetic of fandom. With New Leaf, the Animal Crossing fandom got extremely popular on Tumblr, so a lot of Tumblr users would share their towns along with custom designs they specifically made for them. Towns that either looked cool or were intricate and told a story like horror towns went viral, and everyone wanted to visit them. Scrolling through Tumblr in that era of Animal Crossing was such a bliss and extremely inspiring. Y'all had cool stuff going on. But sadly, hackers found a way to copy dream towns and even the owner's character model pixel by pixel. Players couldn't do anything to protect their town from getting stolen because hackers could just read any dream town from memory and replace their own with it. Hiding your dream address or not sharing it online didn't help, because New Leaf allowed players to visit random dream towns. Some hackers even uploaded the stolen towns and pretended they were their own. In some cases, hackers didn't even bother to rename the dream or remove watermarks or Tumblr links. But even if all traces of the original creator were gone, most houses in stolen dream towns were empty, so that was a dead giveaway. This demoralized the fandom because really all they could do was just report stolen dream towns as inappropriate. Funnily enough, if you visited a hacked dream town, you could unknowingly steal it. Entering Main Street or any building that was usually inaccessible in a dream, like the Roost, would replace your own town with the hacked dream. And you also got the empty houses. Nintendo briefly fixed both Dreamtown stealing issues with their Welcome Amiibo update in 2016, but a couple weeks later, hackers already found a workaround. The Welcome Amiibo update was a pleasant surprise for the fandom because it added new content for an almost 4-year-old game for free. That's almost unheard of. By the way, Amiibos are physical Nintendo collectibles like figurines or cards that you can scan in games to get special content. Because Nintendo also fixed hacks with the update, they forced every player to use it. Players with hacked towns, however, lost access to their save files, got error messages, or were stuck in a loop of the game asking them to update. At first, fans thought that this was Nintendo's way of banning hackers, though Nintendo usually only bans hackers from the online services and not the actual games. But vanilla players also reported issues with the update. It didn't fit on a game card because it was too huge, so you had to install it on a memory card and on every device you planned to play the game on. But let's talk about the Amiibo apocalypse. About a week after the update, Nintendo released a special Amiibo card series that featured 50 villagers who were missing from prior releases. Villagers are a huge deal in the fandom, with some being extremely popular and others wildly hated. Players would go to extreme lengths to get their favorite villager, like resetting their town over and over again, bullying unloved villagers to make them move out, or bribing other players to buy villagers from them. Once players could get their highly desired villagers and keep them forever, they went bananas. Amiibo villager cards sold out almost immediately in the US and Japan. It didn't help that the cards were mostly sold in sealed packs, so you never really knew which one you'd get, and the whole thing turned into a gacha game. Nintendo was slow with restocking, so cards got scalped. Except they didn't sell out in some European countries that received more stock than they needed for their local player base. Since Amiibo cards aren't region locked and really just the language is different, players would buy cards from European countries. The natural balance was restored. Nintendo also released 6 Amiibo cards in collaboration with Sanrio, but decided to only sell them in Japan and Europe. Again, international fans were bummed out and tried to order them from France, which was more difficult this time around because everyone wanted them. Even you, don't lie to me. However, these cards would become even more infamous with New Horizons because the US release was a complete disaster. But we're still not done with New Leaf yet. Remember the scammy island from earlier? It returned in New Leaf as Tortimer's Island, with new features and without asking players to buy more console parts. The new mechanic, Club Tortimer, allowed you to meet other random players on an online version of the island to catch fish, bugs, or play minigames. Besides hacking problems and ensuing crashes, players figured out ways to block others from leaving or doing basically anything on the island. Malicious players would start a minigame or open the inventory to limit the actions of other players, and then ask them for in-game currencies to let them leave. If players didn't want to pay up, their only choice was to disconnect their 3DS and lose all the progress they made on the island, or wait and hope that the blackmailers would just give up. Club Tortimer quickly became famous for virtual kidnapping, so the fandom came up with strategies to lock the island and prevent others from joining. Sadly, there was never an official fix for the situation, so Club Tortimer still is a scary dumpster fire. After the welcome Amiibo update, 2 years passed without any new game announcements. The time gap between main game releases had grown so large that even hardcore fans stopped playing or resorted to desperate measures, like Animal Crossing themed summoning rituals. And it worked, because Nintendo teased a new Animal Crossing game during the Nintendo Direct in 2018. Well, they first introduced Isabelle in Smash, and the live chat went up in flames. But then Nintendo announced that we should expect the new game in 2019, and the fandom was revived. Fans posted theories about the new game, and even old Animal Crossing content was relevant again. So when 2019 came and Nintendo announced that the game would be delayed until March 2020, some fans lost it while others were glad. Nintendo decided to delay the game because it wasn't ready yet, and they didn't want to send their employees into crunch hell. If only every gaming company would be this way. As we approached the new release date, the world would shut down and everyone was forced to stay at home. So Animal Crossing fans started a sadly unsuccessful petition for Nintendo to release the game early because the world needed it. Amidst the pre-release news, New Horizons' first problems surfaced. Nintendo decided that each island, the place you play in, was bound to one Switch. So players couldn't have more than one save file per Switch or transfer their saves from one Switch to another. This posed severe restrictions on people who had to share their Switch because they had to fight about who gets to do stuff. Even worse, only the first player gets to be the residential representative, who can access all features of the game, like adding new structures to the island. Nintendo added save data transfer a couple months after New Horizons release, but they still haven't fixed the representative issue or the one Switch, one island policy, despite massive fan backlash. New Horizons also didn't use Nintendo's cloud save feature when it was released, so if your Switch or game broke, your progress was just gone. Since cloud saves for other games were only accessible with a paid Nintendo Switch Online membership, fans who specifically subscribed for Animal Crossing and those who already had it were equally upset. Why pay for a service when almost no game supports it? Luckily, Nintendo changed that after a few months, after players had already lost their game data due to random memory corruption and rage quitted. While this was annoying, it didn't warrant the hate some fans would send towards Ayako Goku, one of New Horizons' directors. She received nasty messages and allegedly even death threats from players who demanded cloud backups on Twitter, so she deleted her account. Directing your anger at Nintendo was all nice and fun, but going around and being mean to people who work on the game is just not okay. For all you know, she was for cloud backups. Release day felt like the closest humanity could come to world peace, and even the Doom community cheered us on. Still, PETA had a bone to pick with us because Animal Crossing wasn't vegan enough. 3 days after New Horizons release, they posted PETA's vegan guide to Animal Crossing New Horizons, and everyone memed on it. The guide urged players to basically do nothing in the game. Everything that could help you progress, like fishing or collecting bugs, was off limits. And if you thought about building a doghouse, the guide would describe why you shouldn't in very graphic details. The post also had a kids version, and it's just as brutal as the normal one. But at least the guide says that Tom Nook is not exploiting the player and oh no, what is that? What the fuck, PETA? Although the guide is bizarre, its core message is that we should treat animals as our equals. Also, Isabelle is vegan. This wasn't the end of PETA's antics, because 2 months later they posted a TikTok of players waiting in Animal Crossing Museum and yelling "Empty the tanks" via chat. The goal was to cancel the custodian NPC Blathers, because he encourages the player to remove fish and bugs from the habitat. And that's not very vegan of him. I guess no one told them about animal conservation and rehabilitation programs in aquariums. Throughout their Animal Crossing villain arc, PETA replied to innocent tweets about the game with graphic pictures and descriptions of animal abuse. Forget the fact that nothing in Animal Crossing is real, and it's literally just a game. If you ever fished in Animal Crossing or thought about catching a bug, you're an animal abuser. Never mind that they promote smashing rocks, which destroys the habitat of bugs in the game. New Horizons was released with the promise of continuous updates to expand the game. This was direly needed because fans soon noticed that a lot of content from prior games was cut. Beloved items like the froggy chair weren't there, NPC integral to gameplay and lore like Brewster were missing, features like diving and dreams were scrapped, and we didn't even get gyroids. With every update, Nintendo added a tiny bit of missing stuff back into the game and some new things. After the initial honeymoon phase with New Horizons was over, fans felt like Nintendo wasn't giving them enough. Players started to return only for larger updates and then stopped playing. Some updates resulted in bizarre discussions about the game's suitability for kids. One infamous update included accurate depictions of historic art pieces like Michelangelo's David, which also added high-resolution dicks and cloveless lady paintings to the game without any cover-ups. Nintendo also had to review their guidelines after they added Dream Islands. Brands created islands to promote themselves and connect with players. This didn't agree with Nintendo's core values, so they banned islands that directed players to activities outside the game by advertising the website, current campaigns, or giving out coupons. The new rules also forbid promoting your social media accounts, so Animal Crossing content creators could get into hot waters. However, sharing custom patterns or having branded islands was still okay, which is why KFC and Uniqlo islands are still around. Still, some people got banned for just having the Apple logo on the island. Apart from brands, political movements used islands to promote their cause. Most notably, Biden had his own island filled with custom designs that promoted voting and his campaign. But according to Nintendo's revised rules, politics shouldn't be brought into the game, which makes his island illegal, unless he got Nintendo's blessing. Not all updates were good either, because some introduced bugs or glitches that could break your game, like item duplication. Critical bugs received slow patches, while benign ones were fixed almost immediately. The dreaded villager moving glitch that gave players an inaccessible villager house with a note saying "I moved out" instead of an NPC was never fixed. But a simple interface glitch that was used by creators to make Animal Crossing videos more immersive got patched. I didn't really know that Animal Crossing fan videos were such a huge deal or had storylines before I researched this video, but holy shit, they put a lot of effort into that. Luckily, Nintendo noticed the error and re-added the glitch as a feature. After almost 2 years of sporadic updates, Nintendo announced New Horizons' final big free update and a paid DLC. Version 2.0 added back a lot of content that fans missed from prior games, but it didn't satisfy the fandom. Articles and fans claimed that Nintendo didn't follow up on its long-term support promises and dropped the ball on one of its most successful franchises. Just for comparison, the spin-off game Pocket Camp, which featured microtransactions, had already been supported for 5 years when New Horizons received its last update. Nintendo didn't even give fans a nice 2-year anniversary event. But on the bright side, fans who bought the DLC without any expansion subscription pack were really happy about it. The online expansion only rents the DLC to you for a year and gives you access to other Nintendo online services. Also, free updates stopping isn't entirely a bad sign. Maybe the devs are working on a new paid DLC or on a new Animal Crossing game. Just please don't be a spin-off. If you're into Animal Crossing, chances are you've seen this screenshot of a player's character with the caption "Cute space buns, hide face." In November 2020, Twitter user Stardew Leaf posted this seemingly innocent tweet to showcase a new hairstyle that was just added to the game. Her tweet went viral, but to her surprise, not because it was cute, but because it was problematic. The space buns look a lot like Afro puffs, a hairstyle predominantly worn by black girls. Fights broke out about the name of the hairstyle and if it's even okay for a Caucasian character or player to wear them. People defending the post argued that Animal Crossing hairstyles are inclusive for every player, while others called Stardew Leaf and her supporters out for cultural appropriation. Some players even advised her to change the hairstyle before it was too late. The argument escalated so badly that Polygon wrote an article about it. The article tried to prove that the hairstyle was Afro puffs with zoomed in pictures and argued that calling them space buns is erasing black culture. Meanwhile, a lot of black players didn't see an issue with the tweet, and the fandom generally thought it was a ridiculous debate because Nintendo put the hairstyles into the game without limitations. Still, many players thought that it wasn't cool to call them space buns or hide their cultural significance, especially because players of color had to fight hard for representation in Animal Crossing and other games. Also, Animal Crossing doesn't have the best track record with representation, so I can see why people were mad at Stardew Leaf for sticking to her original tweet, not apologizing, and and continuously pissing people off by posting about her space buns. But it didn't warrant the hate and threats sent to her. People also accused Stardew Leaf of being ableist because her profile font was hard to read for folks with dyslexia. As the situation got messier, Twitter users mass reported her account, posted that they hope she gets doxxed, and threatened to kill her dog. Some even sent her death threats in her DMs and told her to end herself. But Stardew Leaf didn't back down until her private information got leaked and she privated her account. The controversy still continued, so she contacted Nintendo. Their support replied and officially stated that all in-game items are meant to be used by all players, provided they have good intentions. I should note that a part of the fandom didn't believe that this was an actual statement from Nintendo, or that Stardew Leaf acted without bad intentions. Especially because some Animal Crossing fans found what is believed to be one of Stardew Leaf's old Twitter accounts, from which offensive tweets and slurs were posted. Although both accounts share convincing similarities like the same villagers, island name, character customization, and similar handles, there is no definite proof that it belongs to Stardew Leaf, and it could just be a coincidence. Even though the drama almost died down a couple of months later, Stardew Leaf announced that she would delete her Twitter. She wanted no association with the drama and was, in her words, done. Now, the controversy lives on through screenshots and shitposts. Right after the Dream Suit update, star fragment trees dominated the Animal Crossing fandom. Everybody wanted them. I wanted them. But they were no ordinary New Horizons items. They were hacked and thus contraband in Nintendo's eyes. So having them on your island was risky. Players devised an underground trading system where people would invite others to their island and hand out the hacked trees for free in-game currencies or real money. The latter would set you back $3 per tree, and is an even worse terms of service violation than hacking. Just like the elusive trees spread through the fandom, misinformation did too. Allegedly, the evil trees could corrupt your game's memory, produce dead tiles after shaking the trees, or brick your game if a villager sat under it. Although there was never a confirmed case, and the people coming up with the hack tested it extensively, there's always a risk with hacked items. With the growing popularity of the forbidden star fragment trees, more players contempt them. The Animal Crossing fandom has always been very divisive when it comes to hacking, with some claiming that it's against the game's spirit and ruining the experience for everyone. So anti-hacking players banded together online to find islands with star fragment trees and mass report them for cheating. If enough people reported a dream address, Nintendo would take it down immediately and potentially ban the owner from online services or uploading to the Dream Suit permanently. The star fragment tree witch hunt was led by one content creator who posted multiple videos of his crusade against contraband trees and incentivized his audience to follow his example. What a modern day hero. Less than a week after the controversial tree's inception, Nintendo squashed the beef and released a small update that patched star fragment trees out of the game. The fandom mainly blamed the crusading content creator for flooding Nintendo's report systems and thus alerting them to the hack in the first place. Players who had the trees were left with the original version of the hacked trees. Those who paid real money felt scammed, and some even tried to get a refund from Nintendo for a contraband item they purchased on basically the black market. To this day, star fragment trees sadly haven't made a comeback. When New Horizons introduced Raymond, a very smug cat, he quickly became the most popular villager. Everyone loved Raymond, but the chances of getting him in the game were almost 1 in 400. Again, players flocked to the Animal Crossing black market to purchase Raymond and other highly desired villagers for millions in in-game currencies, or around 50 real USD. Allegedly, one lucky scalper sold Raymond for $1,000 on eBay, but looking into it, I think it was a meme. During the peak of the Raymond craze, bizarre auctions showed up on Nukasan, the most popular trading platform for Animal Crossing, which became the heart of New Horizons' furry slave trade. Players charged thousands of Nukmas, a very grind-intense in-game currency, just to let others see Raymond on their islands for a few minutes, or get Raymond memorabilia. Of course, cute outfits and interactions cost extra. Scammers would offer Raymond in boxes, which means Raymond was ready to move to another island, just packed his things up in boxes, and was waiting for players to adopt him. But after completing the payment, players noticed that this wasn't true, and they could only take pictures with him. At least we got the in boxes meme from that. Raymond's rise to fame annoyed some players so much that they paid others to bully him by hitting him with nets or making him fall down holes. I always thought it was very strange that no one seemed to care about Animal Crossing's guidelines that explicitly prohibit actions for financial gain, but everyone drew the line with star fragment trees. At least Nintendo is now officially trying to crack down on the forbidden furry trade. Concerned by the greed of the fandom, content creator PokeNinja hacked the game and gave desired villagers in boxes away to anyone who contacted him via Twitter. Within a couple of days, hundreds of Raymonds saturated the black market. According to him, being a parent changed his perspective, and he couldn't bear the thought of people struggling to afford their dream villagers. So he spent literal days of his life trying to make the fandom better. Very cool move. The response to PokeNinja's villagers in boxes was so enormous that he couldn't keep up with the requests, so he formed a team of 20 people to help more players get their dreamies for free. They called the project Villager Haven and launched it at the end of June 2020 via Discord. Thousands of players have joined the Discord and received their dream villagers since by just typing their names in a designated bot chat and then arranging pickup with the team. But why Raymond? His popularity was probably due to his unique design and smug personality. The fandom quickly recognized his meme potential and people were thirsty for him. Because he was a Tumblr sexy man. Players then started to put him into various maid costumes and far more questionable outfits, which only increased his chokehold on the fandom. People would send players that posted about Raymond ominous messages in which they ranted about how someone didn't deserve him because they don't treat him right. This gave us the infamous comfort character rant, which is a masterpiece in itself and turned into a great copypasta. The Animal Crossing fandom isn't new to this sort of behavior. It is pretty common to see people rant about how to play the game correctly, and it's equally bad as in the Undertale fandom. Time traveling, the act of changing your console state, has been a controversial topic in the fandom since the very first game. Animal Crossing has always been a game about expressing your creativity freely, unless you play it in a way that doesn't agree with the toxic minority of the fandom, and then you're cancelled. Also, you don't deserve your villagers anymore, so give them to me. Now. Fans got seriously territorial about players stealing the furniture or island arrangements without credit, copying their aesthetics, or using similar designs to them. Some even toyed with the idea of patenting their islands or furniture arrangements. But players got especially protective over design patterns. When Infamous Bun posted their version of a simple brick pattern to the ACQR code subreddit, another user claimed they stole the design from them and filed 2 DMCA takedowns, despite Infamous Bun crediting them after they requested it via DMs. The other user posted about the fake patterns circulating on the subreddit and tweeted that it sucks when someone bootlegs your design and gets more upvotes with a screenshot of Infamous Bun's post. Infamous Bun replied to the subreddit post and clarified that the other user had actually thanked them for the credit initially before filing the takedowns. But one of the most toxic traits of the fandom is still how fans treat ugly villagers. The fandom normalized bullying ugly villagers, trying to get rid of them as actively encouraged, and fans wrote elaborate rants on why they deserve hate. You need help. Eventually, Nintendo announced Amiibo support and Cards for New Horizons, which effectively legalized villager trading and put an end to the overpriced black market listings for regular villagers. Nintendo also re-released Sanrio collaboration cards in March of 2021 that featured exclusive promotional villagers and special items, thus making the 6 Sanrio villagers the most desirable and rare villagers in New Horizons. The cards were only set to release on Target's website. Players should order them online and then pick them up at their Target locations. Naturally, the morning of the release, Target's website got flooded with bots and fans, and only a few of them emerged victorious with an order confirmation. However, those who succeeded weren't guaranteed cards, because no one told Target employees that they shouldn't stock the cards in store. So a lot of confirmed card orders got sold before their actual owners could get them. Fans were outraged, and it didn't help that scalped cards popped up immediately, with some listings exceeding 17k for the whole set. But again, hackers saved the day because small businesses manufactured unofficial Amiibo buttons. Now the cards have been restocked, so Cinnamon Roll can be mined forever in the game. But the Amiibo frenzy was far from over. When Nintendo announced Animal Crossing's final big update, they also introduced new villagers and new cards. Thus, the Amiibo Series 5 was released on November 5th, 2021, and featured fan favorites like Raymond, Sasha, Shino, and Judy. Naturally, the competition was again fierce. Pre-orders sold out quickly, the cards were immediately out of stock online, and people lined up outside of Best Buy and Target at the crack of dawn. While some could get in early enough to grab a few packs, most players were greeted by empty shelves and scalp listings online. Scalpers sold sealed packs of 6 cards for $40 instead of $6. Again, the villager cards you get in the packs are random, so there's no guarantee you'll find your dreamy. Interestingly, Nintendo is aware of the scalping issue, and they announced a made-to-order re-release for the Animal Crossing Amiibo series 1-4 in Japan to meet the fans' demand. However, their solution to the initial Amiibo shortages in 2020, the Sanrio collab disaster, and the Series 5 rupture outside of Japan was to just slowly restock the cards. The quickest way to get bells in Animal Crossing and progress in a game was to play the stock market. The stock market is like the stock market, but with turnips. Each island had different turnip prices throughout the week, so players analyzed turnip trends to come up with different selling strategies. Since you could only buy turnips on Sundays and they would spoil at the end of the week, players banded together to find islands online with extremely high turnip prices. While it started out innocent with players just inviting others to the islands and running into a few celebrities, a part of the fandom soon charged fees to visit and sell turnips on their islands. People even hired bouncers that would collect those fees and only let people in after they paid. As the fandom obsessed over playing the stock market, scammers would also advertise mostly fake turnip prices online and just boot everyone off their island once they collected the payment. Of course, the people visiting them never got anything in return. Stock market communities have created extensive whitelists and reviewing systems as a response. However, the stock market hype has died down noticeably since 2002. Players that profited from the turnip bloom switched to trading rare items, villagers, or nook miles. Treasure islands have since filled the turnip void. These islands are usually hacked, feature various rare items, and allow visitors to take whatever they want for an entrance fee. But getting an invite to them is quite tricky because they aren't explicitly advertised, because they're hacked. And also many fans consider them as crossing the line. There are a few other honorable mentions for New Horizons controversies. Hacked mystery items could again brick your inventory because once unwrapped, they just block the slot permanently. Hackers would also give players items that were, unbeknownst to them, hacked, which could corrupt their save files or make the item non-disposable. New Horizons multiplayer was pretty safe until an update added a glitch that would allow visitors to get out of bounds. This allowed visitors to get to fenced-off areas on the island and just steal precious items, fruits, or resources that don't grow back. Also, New Horizons added features that allowed your best friends to do more damaging things on your island, like landscaping or destroying stuff. Players that trusted others or didn't know about that feature got burned badly. Pretty trees weren't the only hack that majorly upset players. In the summer of 2022, Dream address stealing made its grand return. Island duplication tools that allowed users to easily copy a dream island, including all the custom designs, gained popularity. People even paid around $50 on websites like Taobao to have dream addresses duplicated or buy popular islands. Besides the prior issue of people claiming others' work as their own, this time original creators could allegedly get banned from the dream suite for hacking. Since every island should be its own unique instance, multiple exact duplicates of dream addresses could trigger Nintendo's ban criteria. Despite the original post claiming this, there's no known case of the original owner getting banned for a stolen dream address. Nintendo is very mysterious about their ban criteria, so no one knows for sure, but they'd be more likely to ban the hacked dream address. Private designs that are against terms of service, on the other hand, could get the original creator banned, because they can get reported after someone copies and then publishes them. Besides not uploading their dream address, not letting strangers visit their islands, and reporting stolen dream addresses as hacked, players sadly couldn't do anything to protect their islands. However, the creator of a popular island duplication tool stated that he never intended for it to be used for stealing dream addresses, but rather for archiving your own island or inspirations offline. But there's also a non-honorable controversy that concerns an infamous Animal Crossing content creator. I wasn't sure if I should include this because it's quite gruesome, so trigger warning for animal cruelty and discrimination. I put a timestamp in for when it's safe to watch again. Right after this content creator gained a considerable following for their cottagecore aesthetic in New Horizons, people called him out for scamming, being extremely toxic to fans, and spreading hateful ideologies. The creator would take up to $300 from fans to give them advice on their island design, and charge them $7 per in-game item. On the Discord and in live streams, the creator would often make insensitive remarks towards the LGBTQ+ community, BLM, and non-Christian beliefs. Besides lashing out at fans and basically anything that wasn't Christian enough for them on Twitter, they also admitted to neglecting a blind and deaf puppy who died as a result. In the same ASMR video, they admitted to cracking a fertilized egg open just to see if there was a chicken inside. Yeah, that's a pretty much unganky person. I don't want to end the section on a tragic note, so let's talk about the infamous dancing cat. At the end of 2021, animator Zone posted a video of the cat villager Ankha dancing to Sandy Morton's Camel by Camel. The video went viral on TikTok and led to many parodies of the animation, fan art, and people dancing to the song like Ankha. But Zone's video was actually a parody of an animation by -8. In the original, Ankha is doing lewd things to a default player character, but people cropped the video to make it look like she's just doing a weird dance, which caused the "is the cat dancing" meme. As more people found Zone's animation and its lewd origins, questions about the appropriateness of adult themes and memes and fandoms that also contain children were raised. But despite the controversy and some articles negating the lewd origins of the meme, the two videos continued to spread, and also the song is now stuck in my ears forever. So, is the cat dancing? Well, kind of. There's a lot of controversy and drama in the Animal Crossing fandom and surrounding the games. I tried to pick very prominent controversies for each of the main series games. But hey, if I left something out, please tell me in the comments, and maybe I can make an update video once they release a new game. You might have noticed that I didn't talk about the spin-offs, and that's because they are bad and no one likes them. No, but seriously, I wanted to focus on the main series because I felt like most of the fandom put their time and hearts into the main series games. Also, the spin-offs are highly contested and usually only fun for a few weeks. I briefly tried to play Pocket Camp while I was waiting for New Horizons, and to me it was just another gacha but with Animal Crossing flavoring. And basically everything in the game required you to buy stuff from the cash shop. Growing up, Animal Crossing meant a lot to me, so I just love talking about weird things in the games and also the fandom. Heck, when I was little, I thought the villagers were real, so when I was talking to them, I actually thought I was chatting to a real person. So when Mitzi decided to leave my town, I took it really personally. And I was sad and cried for multiple days. It was really bad and a rough time. I loved looking at Animal Crossing tumblers and visiting dream towns in New Leaf. But I also have to agree with people that felt like with New Horizons, the game turned more into work than fun, and that the community just got worse with every game. For some reason, those cozy, nice, escapist games just started to stress people out a lot, including me. Still, I hope you liked the video and that you got anything out of it, even if it was just a giggle. And hey, if I made you laugh, you owe me a subscription. So don't forget to subscribe and see you in the next video. Bye!